Hi guys, this is Informant Slayer you all, and we're back again for the part 2 of our topic, the case that tested the Japanese law. So in part 1, we discussed how Junko Furuta lived, and in this video, the part 2, we will discuss the background information, the criminals. By 4 teenage boys, namely Hiroshi Miyano, Joe Ogura, Nobuharu Minato, Yasushi Watanabe, and we have honorable mentions as well, Tetsuo Nakamura and Koichi Ihara, and the other who are involved. There were actually 30 to 100 men involved, but were not mentioned. Let us begin with Hiroshi Miyano. Hiroshi Miyano, he was 18 by the time he committed the crime. He was also the leader of the crime and is alleged to made a few romantic advances to Junko Furuta but was turned down. Miyano was sentenced to 20 years in prison. He recently came out in year 2009. After he was released, he changed his name from Hiroshi to Yokoyama. Apparently, he is known for being candid about his crimes and shows a playful and triumphant attitude when being interrogated as if it's nothing. Moreover, Miyano is currently living a high-end lifestyle, treating his friends often, speeding up his BMW on highway, and is often seen on strip clubs and nightclubs. Miyano also lives to brag his ties in crime and other multi-level marketing schemes. About 4 years after his release, Miyano was arrested for fraud but was released thereafter due to insufficient amount of evidence. Currently, Miyano is living a good life working in a regular customer at a kickboxing gym. Next up, we have Ogura. Google doesn't have much information about this guy, but according to some sources, after his release from juvenile facility in August 1999, he changed his name to Joe Kamisaku. This guy even boasted about his role in kidnapping, torture, and rape of Furuta. Apart from that, he also wasted his father's earnings that was supposed to give to Furuta's parents. He used the money to buy luxury products and living an extravagant life. Moreover, his mother even vandalized Furuta's graves for the reason that Furuta destroyed his son's life. Ogura then married a Chinese woman at some point of his life and divorced her. Just 5 years after his release on June 2004, Ogura once again committed a crime by assaulting a 27-year-old male he thought his girlfriend cheated with. Ogura managed to find the guy named as Isono and beat him and plunged him to his truck. That didn't suffice him. He then brought the guy to a bar and beat him for 4 hours as he threatened him that he's used in killing people and no way how to get away with it. Ogura was sentenced to 4 years in prison for assaulting Isono. In 2009, he walked free again. For the third one, we have Nobuharu Minato. After Minato was released, he changed his name to Shinji and lived with his mother. In 2006, he married someone from Rome or Liechtenstein and had a daughter but got divorced eventually. According to some sources, even at current age of 45, he is still under the protection of juvenile law. Whereas in August 2018, a 45-year-old Minato was arrested for attempted murder. He was accused for beating a 32-year-old male in the right shoulder, an expandable 41cm truncheon, and slashed his throat with a knife. Fortunately, the guy barely escaped death and reported the incident to the police. However, Minato successfully fled from the crime scene even before the police came but was eventually caught. When arrested, he denied the accusations. "I beat the victim but I didn't intend to kill." The last guy, we have Yasushi Watanabe. Among the four, Yasushi Watanabe was the most quiet. So far, he is the only one who has not yet pre-offended and there is no much news about him, what he does for a living, his lifestyle, and whereabouts. For honorable mentions, we have Tetsuo Nakamura and Koichi Ihara were also charged with rape after their DNA was found on and inside the body of victim. Moreover, there were 30 to 100 men who was allegedly involved in Junko's rape and torture who were not mentioned. However, the four mentioned above were the main perpetrators and is reported to have raped the victim for 400 times. After identifying the main perpetrators, let us now proceed to how they executed the crime. But I want you to take note that if you are sensitive, I suggest you should not continue reading this or watching this vlog further. However, if gore stuffs are fine by you, then go on. I ain't stopping you. But anyway, without further ado, let's regards with how the crime happened. As it was mentioned already, on November 25, 1988, Miyano and his friend Minato dawdled around Misato with the nefarious intention of raping and harassing local women. Around 8:30 in the evening, they spotted Junko cycling home after she finished her part-time job. Miyano ordered Minato to kick Furuta off her bicycle. Miyano then pretended that what happened is just a coincidence and offered Junko to walk her home. Junko followed Miyano, but little did she know that Miyano was leading her to death, as Miyano brought her to a nearby house where he revealed his yakuza connections. Miyano raped Junko in the warehouse and once again in the hotel where she was brought thereafter. From the hotel, Miyano called Minato and the others, Jo Ogura and Yasushi Watanabe, and bragged them about the rape. Ogura asked Miyano to keep her in captivity to allow numerous people rape her. According to some resources in regards as to why confined the victim for 40 days, the boys stated that they were afraid of getting caught by the police, and when asked by the reporters if there was another reason, one of them replied, "What other reason would there be?" The group is already known for gang raping women. In fact, just before Junko, they already raped a woman but was eventually freed. Meanwhile, around 3 o'clock a.m., Miyano took Furuta to a nearby park where Minato, Ogura, and Watanabe are waiting. Using the info they learned from searching Junko's bag, using her address, they threatened her to kill her family if she attempted to escape. Junko was completely overpowered and was brought to Minato's house located in Ayase district of Atachi, which was owned by his parents, which became the gang's regular hangout. 2 days after, Junko's parents contacted the police about their missing daughter. To prevent the police from discovering their crimes, the kidnappers forced her to tell her parents that she had run away but was safe and staying with friends, and her parents should stop the police from investigating because she is fine. She was also forced to pose as the girlfriend of one of the kidnappers, but they later dropped the act because Minato's parents is scared of their son's connection with the yakuzas and that they won't report their son's crime to the police. Minato's brothers also knows about this but did nothing to prevent it. Furuta was held captive in Minato's residence for 40 days, and during which time she was abused, raped, and tortured. Apart from those four, they also invited other members to torment Furuta. And so it was later concluded that over 100 men raped her, and the four of them raped her 4 times. And apart from that, she was also tortured through the following methods. Furuta was starved and malnourished, raped more than 500 times, fed with cockroaches and urine, beaten up countless times with bamboo sticks, iron rods, and golf clubs, forced to masturbate and strip in front of others, burned with cigarette lighters and fireworks set off in her ears, mouth, and vagina. Foreign objects inserted into her vagina, anus, including bottles, a still lit light bulb, a cigarette, scissors, and skewers of grilled chicken. Hands tied to ceiling and body used as a punching bag until her damaged internal organs made blood run from her mouth. Flammable liquid poured on her feet and legs, then lit on fire. Forced to sleep outside in December days and sleep inside a freezer. Hot wax was dripped onto her face, eyelids burned by cigarette lighter, left nipple cut and destroyed with pliers. Stabbed with sewing needles in chest area, body mutilated, she had been severely damaged before her last breath, heavy bleeding from vagina due to scissors, nose filled with so much blood that she can only breathe through her mouth, vomited when tried to drink water, her stomach couldn't accept it. Unable to urinate properly, injuries were so severe that it took over an hour for her to crawl downstairs and use the bathroom. Loss of bladder and bowel control, eardrums severely damaged, extreme reduced brain size, unable to move from the ground, drastically altered appearance, unable to make out her facial features, severely crippled body with a rotting smell. After the drastic changes that happened into her body, the kidnappers lost their sexual interest to Furuta. As a result, they once again kidnapped and gang raped a 19-year-old woman, a woman who, like Furuta, was on her way home from work. On January 23, 1989, the time when Furuta was barely alive, was once again tortured to death by Hiroshi Miyano out of anger from losing the game of Mahjong. He and his boys beat her with iron barbell, kicked and punched her, and placed two short candles on her eyelids, burning them with hot wax. And since her whole body was bleeding and pus was already starting to come out of her infected wounds and burns, the four wrapped their hands with plastic bags as they continued to beat her. They poured lighter fluid to her face, arms, stomachs, and thighs as they once again set her on fire. Furuta allegedly tried to stop the fire but eventually became unresponsive. The whole attack before lasted for about 2 hours, which eventually led her to her death. Less than 24 hours after her death, Minato's brother called to tell him that Furuta seems to be dead. Afraid to find out, the group wrapped her body in blankets and put it into a bag. They then put her body in a 55-gallon, 208-liter drum and filled it with wet concrete. Around 8 o'clock p.m., they loaded and eventually disposed the drum into a cement truck in Koto, Tokyo. The sad thing of this is that Junko Furuta could have been saved and lived to tell the tale if only the police and bystanders made a little bit of effort. The police had been alerted twice. The first time was when Koichi Ihara, one guy among the many who had been inside Minato's house, contacted the police, and subsequently 2 officers were dispatched to scan the place but confirmed that there was no girl inside the house without even trying hard. The second time was at the beginning of December where Junko attempted to call the police. However, she was discovered by Miyano before she could say anything. Miyano covered the call up by telling the police that the call was a mistake. As a punishment for calling the police, Furuta's attackers doused her legs and feet in lighter fluid and set them on fire. They also pushed a large bottle into her anus, causing severe bleeding. She reportedly went into convulsions. During their trial, they stated that they thought she was faking a seizure, so they set her on fire again. What's even sadder about this is that the horrible murder of Junko Furuta was discovered by accident. On January 23, 1989, Hiroshi Miyano and Joe Ogura was arrested for the gang rape and kidnapping of a 19-year-old woman, as all the present evidences lead to them. During the interrogation, one of the officers led Miyano into believing that police were aware of a murder committed by Miyano. Thinking that Joe Ogura had confessed to the crimes against Furuta, Miyano told the police where to find Furuta's body. The police were initially puzzled by the confession, as they had been referring to the murder of a different woman and her 7-year-old son that had occurred 9 days prior to Furuta's abduction. In fact, the open murder investigation was unrelated to Furuta, and that case remains unsolved until today. Hiroshi Miyano simply unwittingly turned himself and his friends in. Despite their unspeakable torture of Junko Furuta, none of them even bothered to fake remorse, and yet they received extremely lenient sentence. As to how the Japanese law dealt with them, the 4 main perpetrators of crime are now free. Does that sound fascinating? Well, here's more fascinating. The court didn't protect Furuta's identity as a minor and as a victim, but they protected the criminals. In this case, obviously the rights of the criminals trumped the rights of the victim. This is something that people and media took seriously and made a big deal out of it. Under Japan's juvenile law, the 4 perpetrators' identity are kept hidden, but a journalist argued that what the 4 did, even as a minor, is beyond human nature. Thanks to that journalist, we have little of information as to what these demons look like and how are they living right now. However, truth be told, knowing the criminals means nothing if they are not punished enough equally as to what they have done. On July 31, 1989, in Tokyo, under Japan's juvenile law, the case was being investigated while their identities are kept. On July 20, 1990, the sentences were passed The four of them confessed their crimes, but despite of the obvious evidences, they only received relatively light punishments considering the unfathomably devilish nature of their crime. Miyano, the leader, was only sentenced to 20 years in prison, the max sentence before life imprisonment. Ogura received 8 years in juvenile prison. Minato and Watanabe received 5 to 7 years and 5 to 9 years respectively. The lenient punishment for the four was highly disapproved by the public, making this case a test to the Japanese law. The purpose of juvenile prison is the same as rehabilitation. Since they are minors, despite of their heinous crimes, they are given a chance to change as they are being reconstructed before releasing them to outside world. However, that is not the case, as the three of them, namely Hiroshi Miyano, Joe Ogura, and Nobuharu Minato, is still living a dirty and atrocious life with as they maintain their ties with yakuza. Truly, Japan made a wonderful job handling this four. You know what, guys? I just want this to be heard. As I was making this vlog or this video, I realized that they were actually two things that were taken from her. The first one is her chance to live her life. The second one is the justice that she deserves. Not only the people involved in the crime deserve to be called as criminals, but also the people who freed them, which in fact they might be worse than criminals. They are not humans. The purpose of law is to protect people and punish those who did something wrong accordingly. Many are punished with the same level of punishment as the four have received, despite of the huge difference between their crimes. If this is the case, I would like to ask, where is justice? Is justice served only to those who are privileged? Whereas justice should look through the lenses of a blind man who knows nothing about the world, about the things around him, and is only able to judge based on the things that were described, laid upon him, and what he perceived through his remaining senses. Justice should not be all-knowing but not knowing. And what do I mean by that is, justice should be innocent at first who knows nothing between the people involved. Justice should not know and won't consider things around it. Rather, it should focus on the evidences that is presented. Justice, of course, should be critical but keen in differentiating real evidence from hoax and lies, and should therefore act accordingly into what both the accused and the petitioner deserve. What the criminals did to Junko Furuta is inhuman. Even their deaths won't be able to suffice and repay the atrocity of their crimes. Junko Furuta, even at death, suffered, while the remaining four, despite of everything, were able to live their lives free from the leash that should have lacerated their necks. Again, where is justice? The death of Junko Furuta revealed so many things about the society, not only in Japan but in the world in general. Humanity reeks of evil and is wicked. This horrible truth can never be repressed by all the infrastructures, achievements, edifices, technology, and knowledge that we have. At the end of the day, we're still animals pretending to have superiority. And that's it, guys, for this video. I hope na nagustuhan nyo itong topic na ito. And if you haven't watched the part 1 yet, kung gusto nyo malaman, kung gusto nyo ng in-depth explanation about sa background information ni Junko Furuta and yung background information din ng criminals, you can always check the first video, The Case That Tested the Japanese Law Part 1, which is provided, the link is provided in the description box down below. And I hope you guys learned something or realized something from the 2 videos that I made. And if you want to support me in the future para sa paggawa pa ng mga videos kagaya nito, I hope you can support me. Just like this video, share this video, and subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. I would really appreciate it. And that's it. That's it for this video. Sana nagustuhan.